You're live.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yo, what's up? No matter where you are, welcome to Pasta to Go. My name is Don DeBar. I'm your guest host today. We're going to jump right into this and sit down first with someone who is a comedian and activist. His Facebook page says he is sometimes intellectual, sometimes immature, and always entertaining. My purview of some of his videos as a comedian certainly bear out the entertaining part, and we hope you'll be both entertained and enlightened. And his name is Gerard Michaels. Gerard, welcome. And I see you too.
Hey Don, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. It's another day breathing's another day for in the right direction.
So yeah, I'm hip on the right side of the dirt too.
That's right.
So you're comedians as part of the whole here. Why don't you start out? You got a joke ready to go or what?
Do you if you ever have an OnlyFans girl, do you tell her to take her top off when you start? Is that
Yes, actually, no.
That's a good start. Yeah, no, that's that's like a comedian's nightmare. Whenever let me tell people this right now. If you ever meet a comedian, you find somebody that's a comedian, the first thing you do is ask them to tell a joke, they will hate you forever. Forever and ever. Yeah, it's
so we're off to a good start.
Yeah, finding out someone's a plumber and you're like, hey, I gotta go take a shit. Can you go loosen up the toilet for me? It's like, I'm off the clock.
Okay, some of the things I want to cover. What's going on in Iran, Venezuela, Ukraine, Greenland, Korea, Japan, elsewhere. And maybe let's start in Minneapolis with, how do I get to this picture right here? You can see that, yes?
Yeah.
And you know who this is?
Yes, it's the terrorist that was gunned down and trying to run over the ICE agent, right?
Okay, so that's who she is to you. And then I would ask, how about this person? You familiar with her?
Is that Zarova?
Rachel Corrie?
I'm not familiar with Rachel Corrie.
Bulldozed in Palestine, Israel, your choice of designations, by a bulldozer operated under the purview of the Israeli military. Okay, American citizen, and no action by the U.S. government on that. And finally, when Rachel Good is a terrorist, what about her?
Is that Laken Riley?
No, that is Ashley Babbitt.
Ashley Babbitt.
January 6, 2021.
Yeah, she was the one murdered by Capitol Police, right?
She was murdered by Capitol Police. The other was a terrorist gunned down. I just wanted to get perspective on this because everybody's got a different point of view about the three of them. And so that's how we start. I mean, I want the people that are watching also to consider this. These are essentially three women about the same age that were killed by security forces. Each has a narrative that they were violating the law in some way that was a danger to both the officers and to the state. And they all ended up dead. And in each case, no one was accountable. Although the treatment of each actually is pretty much the same too, the families have all been looking for some sort of redress, and as of yet, nothing. Okay, so Iran, first of all, what's your take on what's happening there?
I think the human spirit can only be repressed for so long. I think repression look, the human spirit wins out in the end. We learn slow, but we learn. That's our mess. We instituted the Ayatollah. Whatever people think about the Shah beforehand, that was us. And now, the geopolitics of the area are constantly changing. But I think what doesn't change is that the human spirit yearns to breathe free. Right. So now the Ayatollah, I believe, has the Ayatollah left for Moscow yet?
No.
But any day now, right? And Pasta's texting me right now. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. Now, just because within the power vacuum there may be problems. I know when people talk about the liberation of the Venezuelan people from Maduro, immediately people point to 2003 with Iraq, and what was it? Mission accomplished, enduring freedom over there. I think anytime you have an opportunity to give the people a say in what they're doing and how they're living their life, it's good. Whether they take the ball and run with it is up to them. But providing the opportunity is a move in the right direction. Don, would you not agree?
I agree that last, with that last statement, yes. But let's first. I want to get your sense of what the facts are on the ground in each of these places. So, your understanding is that there's a popular uprising, mass popular uprising in Iran that is about to actualize in takeover of the state, or is very close to that, and that the leadership is, on its way out the door, either on a plane or with a shovel or some other mechanism. Is that an accurate characterization of what you see going on there?
Yeah, and more to the point, it's the groundswell of, I'm sure you're aware, they've been having these blue jeans and heavy metal pop-up concerts in the streets where men and women uncovered are snubbing their nose in the face of the what are they, the officers of vice and virtue. They're basically their SS. And there's women, there's men, there's dancing, there's blue jeans, there's heavy metal, and that's been going on with increasing popularity for years now. And I think for cryptocurrency, for what people believe or don't believe, one of the things that it's allowed people to do is organize these things behind closed doors without having to use any currency that could be traced. So it's allowed for a certain level of anonymity that's given rise to these protesters, these pro freedom protesters.
Do you? Well, first, you said something about the Ayatollah being, the result of the U.S. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Because that could be taken a few different ways.
That was us. That was our CIA doing regime change, because the Ayatollah, the Shah, started being not as complicit as the we, you can say that we kind of put the Shah in there the same way that we did with the Sauds, right? That's a lot. Rockefeller family put in the Sauds, right? The Kingdom of Saud was us. It's all for resource dominance in the area, as everything is. And when the Shah started getting a little lippy with the CIA, they replaced him with somebody that was going to be more amenable to our political goals in the area. And that was a major backfire. It was a huge backfire, as the Ayatollah immediately, repressed his own people, put in, what is it now? What's it been? 65? Has it been 70 years of yeah.
79 was the current, state revolution, and 53 or 54, I think, was the Shah was installed after they deposed Mossadegh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, listen, the post-World War II global realignment between Britain, United States, what became known as the Cold War, was an abject failure in statecraft. I think we can all look back at that and say that this was a failure in statecraft, and especially when you start realizing that these quote unquote wars that we were fighting, they were just proxy wars for weapons contractors on either side to get massively wealthy, right? And they could say research, development, whatever, but this idea that we didn't win in Vietnam, we didn't want to win. We stopped. We learned from Britain that empire was expensive, so we extracted whatever resources we needed and we left. No different than Afghanistan. In that way, it's shameful.
There were winners for sure. That's right. Some people made an awful lot of money on the Vietnam War.
Yeah, Lyndon Baines Johnson, I believe, made money off of every single helicopter that was deployed.
I heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. So let's see. All right, so let's look at Venezuela. So your understanding of what's happening there is also popular uprising. Is that correct, first of all?
No. I think that Venezuela, There has been popular uprising, but they've been able to squelch it. That was a dictatorship. The people forget that there was an election that Maduro lost, right? And as Pasta's fans know, the contested election. Now I know Pasta tends to like the controlled markets of Venezuela, but the controlled elections are something that, look, we either have elections or we don't, Don. And my thing with empire is either be an empire or don't be an empire. I think the shadow realm, 20th century soft power politics have no place in modern society with the access to information that we have, and the global communication, the global currencies that we have. Again, I believe in the individual spirit, and humanity does not want to be repressed. Humanity, there's something inside of us that yearns to breathe free, not to be cliched, but it's true. And there's a certain amount of our population that's perfectly fine being told what to do, being told what's right, being told what that to show up at a cubicle farm from 9 to 5 every day and have half of their money taken from them, and then find out that it's going to fraud and waste, and not where it's okay. It doesn't matter as long as the people stealing it are underprivileged minorities. It doesn't matter, and all this other crap that you're stealing hours of people's lives. Now, what Maduro did is he took the resources. Everybody's so upset that America's coming in and taking the resources. Those resources were not getting to the Venezuelan people. As the Venezuelan people there, as the president or the would-be president-elect said, what do you think Russia and China's interest in Venezuela were? Do you think they were there for the arepa recipes? Like, this is geopolitics, guys.
Which would be president are you talking about?
I forgot her name. I forget her
Yeah,
name.
okay, the one that okay, Machado, who won the Nobel Prize, etc. Because you got Juan Guaido floating around out there too, and a couple of other
Well, Wydell is he was the vice president, correct?
No. Juan Guaido is the guy that John Bolton and uh, Donald Trump in the first administration, but really John Bolton had declared was the president of Venezuela. Had him come to New York, sign over ownership of gold and shares of stock in Citgo and other corporations as the president of Venezuela, and then kind of cut him adrift. He somehow termed out. He never really occupied the presidential palace. In fact, he couldn't really go out on the streets of Caracas. He went in one pizza parlor. The people started slapping him around.
Right?
He had no legitimacy as president. The claim was, I assume you're talking about the 2024 election that was invalid, last year's election or whatever.
Correct. Yeah.
Because the same claim was made in 2019, and the National Assembly, the opposition in this dictatorship had actually won a majority, and they appointed Juan Guaido as their speaker or whatever the relevant, analog is. And since the U.S. declared that Maduro was not the president, this was not the constitutional court that has jurisdiction under the Venezuelan constitution, but the U.S., then they declared that Juan Guaido was the president, and the majority in the National Assembly did also, but there's an extra constitutional act. And so with him being president, suddenly his signature on asset transfers was legitimate in American business and some American courts, and they started liquidating some of Venezuela's assets here in the West. So that I was referring to that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we all have our sources of information, and I know it's hard to nail down these days with the internet because there's all these strands that come out. But when you're looking at what happens, say, in Latin America, what do you rely on as like one or some of the primary sources of information?
I have primary sources that are there, active on the ground, that I communicate with. I have, well, one of the guys that I love talking to. I played minor league baseball for a bunch of years, so I have friends that are actually in Venezuela. So I'd like to get their perspective try to cut through obviously the certain media biases. Depending on whether you're watching Fox or MSNBC, you either think this is one of the greatest things that's ever happened, or a true human atrocity. So there's no way to take American news with the grainest of salt. There's when you get news, to me it's okay. This is a thing that's happened, and now immediately you have to discern through the propaganda.
So Fox and MSNBC, they have different caricatures of what's just happened. Support what Donald Trump did, and they say it was Donald Trump that did. And MSNBC, of course, this is Satan acting, through the office of the president or whatever, and that's their perspective. But there's some agreement on some fundamentals, which is the illegitimacy of the president of Venezuela, which, where does that get examined in the media? That maybe the media that you look at, but also the media that people see here, because it is a valid question.
Do you disagree with his illegitimacy?
I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I do know that the Constitutional Court and the Electoral Commission there both ratified the election. That would be like the U.S. Supreme Court ratifying one here. Now, I understand what happened in the year 2000, and I question the legitimacy of George Bush's election as president. But if you look deep at all of the elections for president in the United States, you could raise the same questions. Look at Biden, for example. People raise the same questions about Trump. How many people would want to run for president that can't get on the ballot because of the Byzantine, basically the hurdles that are raised against just ordinary people, trying to rule themselves? So I don't know what the question means by legitimacy, but under Venezuelan law, it appears that he is the legitimate president in election.
I know we have to be a little careful there, though, Don, because if the government is in charge of ratifying themselves into power, right? It's like the FBI has investigated the FBI and concluded that the FBI didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, the
right?
U.S. State Board of Elections, or whatever, the U.S. Supreme Court or some district court or federal appellate court. These are the ultimate arbiters of elections here.
My understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, my understanding, I'm certainly no expert on Venezuela, but my understanding is that an international audit found that 2 out of every 3 votes went in opposition to Maduro. And then they threw every one of those votes out, claimed it illegitimate, and claimed Maduro the legitimate winner. And or they even said he lost and still didn't concede power. Is that true?
I see the reference to this in reports in the Western media. What I don't see is the actual fundamentals of the alleged report. I've done some election work here and elsewhere, and just just generally understanding just fundamental legal issues. There are claims and then there's evidence. And I haven't seen any evidence to that. I certainly have seen claims.
Right.
All I know is that the court that examined the evidence, and the authority that examined the evidence, came to this conclusion. And I completely understand from my own personal experience here in Austin, New York, running for mayor, that the people who sit in power appoint the people who, audit the mechanisms of power. Correct. And so certainly it is entirely possible that Maduro's puppets are sitting in both the Electoral Commission and the court, and consequently, no matter what they did, you would have that problem. However, there are some markers. For example, there was this claim back in 2002, and then there was a coup d'etat attempted, actually accomplished for a couple of days. And that was overturned by millions of people coming down and overturning it by taking possession on behalf of the government of the presidential palace, where the people who took power had been camped out. And there have been other examples in Venezuela's history where the masses of people, when it's finally, time to push and shove, stand with the government. So, I don't know what all of that means. What I do know is what was just done, no matter what the elections in Venezuela, whether how valid they are or not, certainly the United States government does not have a role in determining who's going to rule them. And I just wanted to get now to the point, because you had the point, either we have an empire or not. Is that what you said? I think you used the word empire, was it?
Yes.
Okay. So what is, how do you see this? I mean, do you see empire as a good thing? I understand it exists.
I do.
No, you do. And why is that? And what does that mean for, I mean, you're a libertarian, or you have libertarian tendencies?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a very long time I embraced libertarianism, but now, to be honest with you, I see it after these past 10 years of living in this cold civil war that we've been living in, that I think libertarianism is as sophomoric and foolishly utopian as socialism and communism, frankly.
All right.
People,
go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was going to say, I got it. It's an ideology that doesn't fit reality, basically, right? That's what you're
saying. Jeff Deist has a great book, and it's The Imposers and the Imposed Upon, and it's actually a libertarian treatise. But the truth of the matter is, we do live in times of the imposers and the imposed upon, and I would love to have a libertarian perspective. I think libertarianism is a good guideline. I think libertarianism is a good ideology to adhere to, live and let live. Although too many people take the non-aggression principle as an excuse for pacifism. And the far left, especially the global left, as we've seen over the last 10 years, they will not let you live. They will not let you be. They will not just let you go. They will organize. They will pay for organization. They will march. They will riot. They will take power by force. And what they understand is that when it comes to governance, might does make right. Like you said, did Maduro win the election? Doesn't matter. The people that were in power, that he probably placed in power, certified the election. And then millions of his followers, who wanted to probably get in the good graces of the king, decided to come down and ensure that their positions within this hierarchical government were satisfied, let's say. Now, is that good for the people on the ground and the peasantry? Of course not. But this is a world of finite resources. And whether you like what we did in Venezuela or not, the fact of the matter is Venezuela's resources were going to go somewhere. And I would rather they go to us instead of China or Russia. I think that our country and our culture is good. And I think our country and our culture deserves to have dissemination. China's certainly not going to stop. China spent, I believe it was $8 billion over the last 10 years in curating the curriculum of the American youth. Okay, the Manchurian Institute. Why we let that happen, I don't know. Our empathy is suicidal in many regards, right? And you have a situation now where you have people on the ground that are being paid by foreign assets to riot, intimidate, their political opponents. And I don't think that you should be allowed to hide behind the First Amendment when you are a paid agitator. You're seditious. You're a traitor. You are an active combatant. You're not a protester. This isn't a peaceful protest. You are an active combatant against your American people. And I think that they should be treated as such. And then I believe if we're going to have this resource war in the AI to coming days, have it. I think America's good. I think good things should expand. I believe it's evolution.
So, the American population is approximately 330, 350 million, whatever it is now.
It's not accounting for all the illegal immigration, but yeah.
The U.S. population, well, whatever it is, 400 million if it is.
Sure.
And certainly the rewards of empire are distributed somewhat unevenly.
Now wait, that's a key. That's okay. A key.
Well,
right.
But I'll deal with that secondarily. But in any event, even if they were not, 400 million people out of a world of say 8 billion is 5%. It's a small minority of the population, and if empire is to have its sway in places like Venezuela, Iran, wherever else. What does that mean for the bulk of the human population
I
in
don't care.
terms of their interest in being free,
Couldn't care less.
being able to determine their own fate? All of the things that are these values supposedly that give validation to the American empire.
Genuinely couldn't care less.
Okay, well, that's an honest answer. I'm told we've got 10 minutes to go, and that was 2 minutes ago, so we got 8 more minutes.
Sure.
Let me ask you about Greenland. I mean, I
Mhm.
understand, I guess, the underlying philosophy, but what do you think about? Well, first of all, let's go to Ukraine because that's
Mhm.
got all kinds of nested contradictions. What do you think of the U.S. role there? First of all, what do you think the U.S. role was there? There are some who say we've got involved because they're being picked on by bad Russia, their big neighbor, and others that point out that the U.S. politicians were stirring up the group of people that took over the capital and ultimately the country.
We did. Victoria Nuland's one of the worst human beings of all time. I think that's been pretty much, we another one. We did a coup there. This idea of soft power and statecraft is disgusting. I like empire because it's honest. Okay, Greenland, we want you because you are strategically necessary for us to have. Okay, we cannot allow our enemies that would do our people harm access to those resources and those waterways. Okay, so make a deal with us, right? Everything's a negotiation, right? And this is what people have to understand about life. This is not a sexy thing to say. This is not something people are gonna like. But most people have never been a big, strong person that was capable of violence. This is the truth. Most people have never been capable of violence, so violence is abhorrent to them. Okay. Meanwhile, there is great peace through strength. When two guys, if you've ever been around two UFC fighters, they are the nicest human beings on planet Earth because they know at any given time the only thing standing between them sending you to the hospital, all right, is their goodwill. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Okay, so through that regard, there's a certain natural hierarchy that takes place that makes you nicer to that person and that person more gregarious to you. Okay, the thing about negotiation is that there's always has to be an or else. If you can't say the words or else, then you have no leg to stand on in any negotiation. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're trying to sell a house. I don't care if you're trying to get a promotion. If there's nothing, if you have nothing, you have to have something to offer, but then you have something to withdraw. You have to have something to threaten. All right. And I think the world now is on edge that, these guys might just actually take it. And if they think we might take it, well, then they're more amenable to negotiation. Okay. I am of the opinion that the United States has been raped by the international community. Raped. I think our politicians have been in on the grift. To your point before, the spoils of empire have not been shared on the ground. And that's the biggest problem Americans have with what we've done abroad. It's made Halliburton and Exxon remarkably wealthy, but we have not seen it here. And now, what to go specifically to what you asked about Ukraine, I think it became because of the geopolitics of the Democrats, because of how heavily they leaned into the Democratic Socialists of America and the struggle sessions with minorities, that it became incredibly unpopular for the United States of America to engage in empire in places where the people that were being subjugated are poor and brown. So immediately they took people out of Afghanistan, and the entire military industrial complex started using Ukraine as their testing ground instead, because it's okay to kill young white guys. And that's my cynical view of the situation.
Same dynamic, however, the weapons companies are making money throughout the whole thing. I guess last thing we got here, last question. Was that the last question, Jayme? I'm not sure. If we have one more, where can people see you perform?
I'm all over Florida for the next month. I perform out of the Comedy Mothership in Austin, Texas, Joe Rogan's club. I'll be at Triggered Comedy Club Friday in Melbourne, Florida. I'll be at the Sad Man Comedy Cafe on Saturday the 17th in Boca Raton, Florida, and I'll be in Side Splitters, Tampa Bay on the 29th.
So maybe we can have an extended conversation about some of this stuff, because I'd really like to work a few of these things with you. But thank you very much for your time. It's nice to meet you, and I hope to see you again.
All right. Take care, Don. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, and so we're going to take a little break while Jayme puts the program together for the next segment, which will not include me, and I'll be back for the third segment faster than you can say, wow, where did he go?